I'm good. How are you?
Can you see and hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So I'll give everyone a little bit more time to log on. But I'm
Okay.
so happy you agreed to do this last minute.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so,
Yeah, thanks for doing it.
yeah.
I'll just introduce myself, introduce you, and then I'm gonna hand it over to you so you can tell everybody what you do and get the word out there because it's pretty awesome. um, so my name is Dr. Jamie Zuckerman. I'm a clinical psychologist outside Philadelphia, and I work with adults who primarily have anxiety, depression, relationship issues, and just everyday life stressors. So yo-yo, yes, right? I got it right. Okay. So I found your page. I don't exactly know how I found your page, but I found your page and and I'll let you explain what you do, but
Yeah.
um, you make really kind of heartfelt, you can tell you love it. You can tell you really kind of put your heart and soul into it. That's what I noticed right away.
Aw.
Making beaded jewelry and donating all the proceeds to, and I'll let you describe, what it is, but Mental Health America, correct?
Yeah.
And I'll let you describe the organization and why you do it and how you started and all of that. And I will leave her information on my page so you guys can click on it. I think I wanted to get you on around the holidays because I think this is kind of what does anyone really need right now?
Yeah.
So I think it's a really excellent idea to get people for gifts for the holidays, especially because we can't see our family members. So it's a really kind of heartfelt, special thing that means something rather than just, another pair of gloves. So I'll hand it over to you and I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Okay. So, Jamie, first of all, thank you so much for having me.
Sure.
Super excited to be here. I basically started this initiative back in August, so about a few months ago. I was in quarantine and, COVID was getting to me. I was either working at home or just watching TV, hanging out with the family, and I just like needed something to do with my free time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was letting my creativity flow, and I decided to start making jewelry for mental health awareness. And so, I guess just to back up, about a year ago, someone in my family was actually diagnosed with bipolar and psychosis. And I flew home immediately. I went to all the doctor appointments with them. They got an MRI, like nothing was
Mm-hmm.
wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, at least, just like speaking from my own experience, I had never really been I had never really learned about mental health like in school. Like
Mm-hmm.
we had health classes and we would
Right.
talk about like
They don't really talk about it still.
no, not at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really know how to handle it. And so I was just relying on like a bunch of information and like my friends and this person's friends. And I was kind of just like going into this like hole, not knowing how to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
And so unfortunately for this person, it didn't like, we tried everything to help and they just didn't recognize that they needed the help.
Yeah.
And I think also for that person, similarly to myself, they were just never taught about mental health. And I also think that there's like some sort of stigma around mental health because with physical health, like if you have a cold or if you scrape your knee, like you see it, like I guess for lack of a better term, like you have proof.
Yep.
But for mental health, it's just like your head, like your brain, and you can obviously like cut open your brain and
Right.
see it.
Right.
And so I think for a lot of people, it's just really hard to believe.
Yeah.
And because we
And
never,
it's also hard for people, especially if they don't have an education about it, which is not their fault. They don't even have the words to begin to explain how they feel.
yes,
Right? They don't even have the language for it, and no one can fault them for it. And oftentimes what ends up happening is what you said, the mental health, we'll say pain or the depression, the anxiety, it transforms itself into physical symptoms. And a lot of times you end up getting people who have, gastro problems, stomach problems, migraines, backaches, And they'll go to the neurologist, they'll go to the GI doc for that, and then they
Yeah.
get put on medications when really it's that's a symptom of a larger issue. They don't know how to express it or explain it.
Yeah. No, totally. And I
It's
think
scary.
with mental health, it just has such a negative connotation
Yeah. Yeah.
for whatever reason. But so I was actually looking on Mental Health America when I started Needs for Beads. And what I really liked about it, just like based on my own personal experience, is that their whole philosophy is to find symptoms early on. I think they call it like before stage 4.
Yeah.
For example, like going back to cancer, you want to find that early on so that you can nip it
That's
and
right.
not wait 10 years for it to get worse. And
So
so,
they stage the mental health illnesses.
yeah,
Okay, that's interesting.
yeah. And so, um, sorry, I just lost my train of
That's
thought.
okay.
But so yeah, and I think that really spoke to me because, like I said, I never really learned about mental health. And so for me, I never saw the symptoms. So
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't able to catch them early on.
Right.
And so what I like about,
Which is very common. Very
yeah,
common.
I feel like a lot of people don't.
It is. It's very, very common because not only are people not aware of it, but the person who's feeling it, if the people around them don't understand it, they're less inclined to come forward. So a lot of times they hide it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just not talked about,
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason, like no one wants to talk about it. So obviously no one wants to be that one person
Yeah.
who opens up and feels vulnerable,
Correct.
which I don't really understand. Like I feel like I'm pretty open. I have anxiety. And especially like after this last year,
Yeah.
I went to therapy and it's helped so much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on anti-anxiety meds and like
Mm-hmm.
I cannot imagine my life. Like
Yeah.
I would be a mess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
No, but I think it's important. I think I tell my patients as I tell people routinely, if especially this past year, if your anxiety or your sadness is not heightened, then I'm more concerned about you avoiding it by doing other things like drinking too much or eating too much or not eating enough or drugs or shopping too much, whatever it is, because it's so normal what you're explaining right now because we can't just feel happy. Our brains and our bodies don't work like that. If we didn't have anxiety, there'd be nothing to keep us safe.
yeah,
So I think it's really important to acknowledge that any anxiety that you have right now that's heightened is completely normal and good for you for, seeking help, not because something's wrong, but just to
oh,
learn how to manage what you have so that you don't have the symptoms get worse. So it doesn't kind of paralyze you.
exactly, yeah. No. Um, yeah, and I also think that, as I opened up to people, I had friends opening up to me, my
Yeah,
boss opened up to me about like his experiences with mental health, and it's just really amazing to see that like once you open up to people, people feel comfortable speaking to you
that's
as
right.
well.
Absolutely. Good for you. And I know that you started, you want to tell people a little bit about your
Yeah.
segments that you started?
Yeah, so after I started Needs for Beads, I actually joined as a guest my friend's podcast to talk about mental health. And so I was really nervous just to like talk about like why I started this initiative and
Mm-hmm.
but I talked about it. And so there were 3 girls hosting the podcast and they all started telling me their stories regarding mental health and I was just really amazed that they felt so comfortable. Because
Mm-hmm.
one of them I knew, she's a close friend of mine, but the other 2 I met maybe once. And so it was really just like nice to see that like as I was opening up from my experience, they also felt comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so just having that conversation kind of made me start thinking, what it would be like if we had these types of conversations more, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to have, or I guess start an Instagram live series. So every 2 Mondays, I meet on Instagram Live with a guest speaker and we discuss mental health and they talk about their personal experiences. So, for example, one of the sessions was with a girl who experiences mental health, and she's part of the LGBTQ community. So she was sharing her story.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what was last week? Talking about sports, mental health and sports, and then also the connection between physical illness as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel, I've gotten really great feedback after each session from people saying, thanks so much. Like, I feel more comfortable talking about it, being vulnerable, and just also hearing different perspectives because everyone's story is different.
Right. And I'd imagine hearing other people's stories and how they're handling it gives other people ideas on how they can handle it.
Yeah.
And, just I think also just from doing lives and talking to other professionals on here, I tend to, now that you're saying it, I tend to really speak to other specialists or professionals or people in other, areas of psychology. I've never actually spoken to somebody who's on solely to talk about their story.
Yeah.
And that's and I guess part of the reason why I also wanted to have you on is to talk about, someone who's not a professional, mental health provider,
Right.
because I think the perspective from our side versus your side is very different. And it's our responsibility as providers to make sure that we understand as you said, every single, we understand symptoms and all of that, but every single person's manifestation and story is different and unique. And I think what you're doing with your segments is amazing, because I think more people honestly will probably get more from that than they will me telling them about their sleep hygiene strategies. Right? I mean, I think somebody else saying, I'm struggling with sleeping, I'm waking up at 3 and I'm doing this and then I'm exhausted all day, and hearing their story and making them realize, that that's really happening to them. It's not just me telling them to, don't nap in your bed. And,
Yeah.
I think it's very beneficial. So I thought that was very cool that you were doing that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit just about kind of the process of your jewelry making and how you pick what you're going to do, and kind of the creative process of it, and then also how people can order from you and where to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started Needs for Beads with originally my Instagram account. And I knew right off the bat that I wanted to make bracelets because I personally never wear bracelets. And I feel like bracelets are always so cute and like go with anything. And so I went to a few arts and crafts stores and just picked out like pearls and other beaded goodies that I really liked and kind of just like went with it and brainstormed. And then I also had some friends tell me like specifically what they wanted. So I made some personalized bracelets as well, which was really cool. But yeah, so on my website now, needsforbeads.com, I'm selling bracelets, pre-made ones, but also again, personalized ones. So you can choose the color, you can choose if you'd like to add a word. I have different sets. I know you had ordered some of the heart sets as
Mm-hmm.
well for your kids, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I
I'm
mean, I mean, we're all gonna match.
cute. Love. And then I also am selling chain masks because we are unfortunately still in quarantine with
Mm-hmm.
COVID. And then I also have a few necklace options as well.
Right. And just again, if you can just say where you're kind of donating to and just a little bit about the organization itself.
Yeah, so I'm donating to Mental Health America. What I really liked about them is that their whole philosophy is that you should find the symptoms early on so that you don't waste years not doing anything and
Mm-hmm.
it gets worse, such as
Mm-hmm.
physical illnesses. And they offer mental health screenings. They have a bunch of different resources if you feel like, something's going on, but you're not sure what. I know there's different tests that you can take to figure out, like,
Online,
obviously,
they have
not,
them.
but sorry.
They have them online.
Yeah, they have them online. They have different like news and updates you can sign up for and opportunities to get involved. I know there's a annual conference as well. I think that takes place in September. And I think the theme for this year was talking about mental health and COVID. So they have a ton of resources. Yeah, definitely really recommend checking them out.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Again, I think you're amazing, and everybody. I'll post your information, but I really think everybody should check out your page. I don't know how I got to you, but you just get this feeling when you see your page and you kind of scroll through your stuff that this really is something that's super important to you, and you
It
can
is.
tell. So I really respected that, and I thought it was great. So
Thank you.
thank you for doing what you're doing, and thank you for doing the live Instagrams. I think you're going to help way more people than you realize, because I think hearing real stories from real people, not just mental health specialists, is super, super important, and definitely not done enough. So,
Yeah.
very brave of you and brave of the people that you're interviewing. So definitely keep that up, and thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And I will speak to you soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Have a
All
great
right.
Thanksgiving.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.